So in this video, I'll show you how you can create tuck boxes for your game components, including large boxes that you could use for things like map tiles, regular boxes for playing cards, or even smaller boxes for smaller things like mini cards. So this is a great site for creating custom tuck boxes. It's created by Craig P. Forbes, and you can see it's www.cpforbes.net/tuckbox. And in here, all you need to do is specify the dimensions. Here we're using inches, and give the width and the height and the thickness. And the bottom style, you can select whichever one you want. Now I use glued. I'm going to tape them up actually. And you can put a title on there. And this just shows you basically what that box will look like. And I can click on Make PDF Template. And what it does is it creates a little template that I can print out. So here's an example of what the tuck box looks like when it's completed. I'm using this for some cards in Gloomhaven, and you can see the top comes up. It's got little tabs here, and then a little notch that I can easily pull out the cards, and they fit in there very easily. And I tape up the side. That's how I use it. You can glue, but I use tape. And of course, you can print on them if you want. I just like to use regular white poster board and then put the label on the top by just writing with pen. Now here we can see all of the tuck boxes that I made for the different monsters in Gloomhaven, and you can see that there's custom thicknesses depending upon the number of monsters that will fit in each of the boxes. And I used Craig's website to create custom templates for creating each of these tuck boxes. And then just to show you, I took a regular poster board and just cut it out and glued it together so that it could have a shape to contain all of the boxes. And if you look over here, I even kind of cut little inserts just to keep the boxes from moving around. So that's kind of how I organize them all together. And I even had a little space for two of the characters that I play with. Now you might think that tuck boxes are used just for cards, but you can see here that I've actually created large tuck boxes for all the map tiles of Gloomhaven, and even fairly large boxes here. And I just used a thicker poster board to create those. Now the first thing you want to think about when you create your tuck boxes is what kind of material you want to create them out of. And even for the smaller boxes, I have found that on my local Walmart, and you can see, I don't know the thickness here, but this is called Pen and Gear, and it happens to be a little bit thinner type of poster board, but I'm just getting a large size and then cut it as I need. For the larger boxes, I might use thicker poster board. For the smaller boxes, if you can't find a thin poster board, you might just use regular cardstock. Now here's a printout of a box that I'm going to be creating. And when I first started creating them, I actually cut out all around here, but I found that there's a faster and easier way to do this. So the first thing that I'll do is put the title of the template up there, and then put the maximum width and height. So you can kind of see here that I'm actually measuring the maximum width from here to here, and the maximum height from here to the top of this tuck tab. And that allows me to cut out the outer dimensions very easily using some kind of cutter here. I typically do use English measurements because the cutters are usually measured that way, at least here in the United States. So I'm going to make two of these boxes, and so I just find out the way that it fits best on the poster board, and then I'm going to cut that out. So here I'm actually going to cut it out this height-wise coming across this way so that I can get two boxes. Now for creating all the organizational components of my games, I have this metal ruler, I think it's by Helix, and it has a cork on the back, which makes it really nice because I can hold it in place very easily and it won't slip. And since it's metal, I can cut along the edge. And I use that for both these tuck boxes sometimes, like I'm going to use it now to cut this original thing, and also for foam board kind of work. Now, of course, you can use scissors, but I'm just going to use that ruler because it's a little bit easier and it doesn't fit within this cutting board. So here I'm just going to use a regular box cutter and cut along the edge here. I didn't have to actually draw a line there. I'm just going to use the ruler against there. And I have an acrylic, it's probably hard to see, an acrylic cutting board. It's just a regular kitchen cutting board. Now notice it won't fit quite all the way there, so I can turn it diagonally. It still doesn't quite fit, so I'll cut part way and then just move my paper and scale and cut some more. So here I've placed the poster board almost at the very corner here, and I've lined up the scale, and I'm just going to cut as far as I can, and didn't quite go all the way through, so I run it again, make sure it's come up. And so now again, this is one thing that's really great about this types of ruler that have the cork behind it. I can move it up now until I can cut the rest of it. So I'll just pick up where I left off and cut it through. And there we've got that first part cut off. Now I could just, again, measure and line up and cut with the box cutter again, but this will now fit in the normal paper cutter, so I'm going to use that. Now here's an interesting tip on paper cutters. This came and it's marked in 1/8, but I wanted mine marked in 1/16. So what I did was, on the main edge that I cut against, I purchased just a cheap, inexpensive, clear, see-through plastic ruler that's marked in 1/16. I drilled holes right at the place that you would normally put this in a notebook, and put in screws and just bolted it from the other end, and now it's permanently attached, and so it's marked by 1/16. I did have to cut the ruler a little bit so that it would fit, so that the bar would come down without hitting the ruler. But in any case, since I have already measured from this edge to that edge and know that distance, I'll just use that when I cut here at the paper cutter. So that's going to be 7 5/8. So I'm just going to take this poster board, the strip that I trimmed off, and measure it 7 5/8 and cut one. And do it again, 7 5/8. And there we've got our two parts that we can make our boxes out of. Okay, so the next step is, I like to have the dull side on the outside, so I'm actually going to draw and mark the lines on the shiny side of the poster board. The other thing that I would suggest is, this is perhaps even the most important part of this box, and that is using a regular ballpoint pen, because as you mark off the lines, you can actually score them, and it makes much easier to fold the box as you put it together. Now the next step that I'm going to do shows you why I don't actually need to cut this out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pay attention to the lines here where we're going to do the folds, and you can see that I can just put this poster board cutout section and just mark right along these lines where we're going to do the folds. So I mark at the top side, and then I can take and mark on the bottom as well. So I just mark here at each of these dotted lines where I'm going to do the folds. And then all I have to do is I can draw a full line on there. The next thing I'm going to do is do it on the height side. And notice here, if you actually happen to have cut this to the wrong side, you want to line specifically up at the top of the tuck. And that way, if this happens to be too short, it's still okay. And it will still fold appropriately, but that's the best way to align it. So I just go in here and mark these dotted lines and do the same thing at the bottom. And again, making sure I align that top edge first. Now, once you've done a number of these boxes, you'll start to notice some things. And that is here that as I score the lines or draw the lines on here, that the tuck box top right here and here, these lines don't need to go all the way across. They just need to go between these markings here. And so you can kind of figure out patterns like that. But basically, I'm going to start by drawing these lines all the way down. So we'll start with the short edge. So what I do is I can draw that line, but then actually what I want to do is bear down hard and score that where it's going to fold. Now it does turn out that, like I said, you'll notice the patterns of how far they go. They don't necessarily go all the way from top to bottom, but you want to score it easily so it folds easily. And just do that about 2 or 3 times and go to the next one. Line it up. Draw and score. And then I just flip it around to do the last one. Now I repeat the process for the other edges. Just line it up. And again, this one just needs to go between those 2 lines. And this one here. I want this one to go all the way across, so I score it all the way. And then this last one here just goes between these 2 lines. And then the final one on the bottom. Now it's time to start cutting it out. And the first thing that you should note in the pattern, this rightmost bottom edge, we cut out the square. But for every other place, we just cut the line to the first line. Now here you can see in this pattern, this is supposed to be a little bit shorter, but I don't even need to worry about that. I've never had it have a problem for any of my boxes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out this square. Then I'm going to cut along this line to here. This line to there, and that line to there. And here's an interesting tip. You can just kind of use your finger to hold the edge of the scissors. As I place my scissors against there, it can help me align to the line. And just cut straight up to there. And keep doing that for each of the lines. Now the next thing that you might want to notice is that we have a curved section here. I haven't done that yet. And there's a curved section here. The exact dimensions of that are not that important, but you can see that that starts from here, and I just draw a curved area. I should have marked that distance, but it doesn't matter too much. So I'm just going to curve here to about halfway up and create a little tab there. And I'm going to do the same thing for the other one, about halfway up, and create that little curve. And the same thing I can do over here on the tuck. I'm just going to create a little curve, however, looks nice as my tracing edge. Okay, so now we can see, I'm not going to worry about this thumb yet, and we're just going to cut straight across here to the tab, and then cut up. So just cut that out, and then I will cut down this line all the way to here, and down this line all the way to there. All right, now we're going to show you a trick to make it easy to cut out these tab portions here. So if this middle part of the box, I'm going to fold right along this line here. I fold it down, and now I'm going to fold this one in right along this line. So these areas kind of sit up like ears, and so it's easy to cut those. And so just using those lines as kind of a simple guide, I cut along there to just give a curved tab, and then do the same thing for the other one and cut that out. Now I open that back up, and I'm going to do something similar. I'm just going to fold along this line, and that makes it a little bit easier to cut that tab. So let's go in here and cut along there, and then cut here. Now I've got the basic box shape cut out, and so I just fold along each of the lines. Now this one here, this bottom one there, I actually want to fold backwards, but the other ones I fold in toward the middle of the box. So I just fold those in, crease them, fold these all in. So it's very easy to fold since I used that ballpoint pen to mark the lines. Fold on that tab here. Make sure that we've got both of these folded. And now all the creases have been folded, so now it's ready to tape up the box. You want to put a title on the top of your box. So you want to make sure that the tab, the tuck tab, is facing down, and then you just put whatever title that you want. Okay, so now the question is, how do you fold up the box? Well, we want this edge to be on the outside most, so that we can tape along this edge and this edge. So that's what I'm going to do. So the first thing is I want to fold this one in, and as I bring it together, this edge will come second. And then now on this outside edge, I'm going to fold that up, and it kind of fits in this little notch here, you'll see, like that. And that way this edge is last. Now finally, I'm going to actually pull this edge out a little bit, just so that it's easier for that tab to come down. And put both the tabs down, and then just kind of close the box. And it actually stays pretty much closed. So you might have to fiddle with it a little bit, but that's the way it is. And now I'm going to tape across this edge and then that edge. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to take some tape and measure it to about the right length. And I'm going to place this down on a firm surface that just helps it be more square. Then I'm going to take the tape, just place it right there, and just slowly press down and do the edge that way. So I'm going to repeat the process for that last edge, get the amount of tape that I need, make sure the box is closed up properly, and then just place the tape down there and slowly run it together. And there we go, we've got the edge done. And so the box can be closed. Okay, so now for this little tab. When I first started making the boxes, I tried to cut out a really clean, nice circle there, and it just was very difficult to do. So all I do at this point in time is I just find somewhere that is about at the middle, and then I just take the scissors and create about a 45-degree angle, maybe a little less, and then just cut there to whatever distance I think is a really good distance, about your thumb size. And there you've got your little cutout here, and that makes it very easy to open the box. The other couple of things to note that are hints, as you tape this together, when you have the size of the tape, if you start near this edge, that's usually pretty helpful. And even sometimes if you want, you can make this little tab a little bit longer than that, and it'll stay in a little bit better, but in general that's pretty good. So that's what the box looks like, and that's how you make one of these tuck boxes. So I hope that was helpful, and enjoy making your own tuck boxes.